Good afternoon, 4:15 on Monday. How is everybody? Have you had a good weekend? I wanted to jump on and just start to kind of share a little bit about how we got here in our kind of journey to TYPP, maybe more specifically mine. For those of you that don't know me, I am Sarah Jane. I'm the owner of TYPP in Glasgow and Injury Clinic Glasgow. I'm a podiatrist, physical therapist, and I've taught Pilates for 20 years now. So it pointed out to me this weekend doing a course. I was on a 3-day virtual. I should be in Toronto right now on a big conference, but clearly with COVID I'm not there. But they still ran it, and it was an amazing event for 3 days. But one of the things that come up with me, somebody asked me, like, why is it I do what I do, and how did TYPP and the other things that I do come about? And I realised that I don't really ever share that, and it has been a bit of an amazing, weird, crazy, wild 20 years of a career. So I thought I would share a little bit here. So tune in if you like. If not, you can run away. But essentially, growing up, I was always involved in sports. So I was an 800 metre runner. I was better at the 1500 metres, but I preferred the 800 metres. So just 1500 was just a bit too long. And anyway, I did quite well with that, but not well enough that I ever made Olympics. But I got to national level, and I was always dead competitive. But back in the 80s, I didn't grow up in a family with a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money, and actually my running coach, Frank ever sees this, used to, I think he paid for a lot of my running coach. My uncle, my mum's brother, my Uncle Joe, used to, I used to do a lot of like ironing his shirts and cutting the grass, and he would give me some money to buy my spikes and other appropriate stuff to get running. So anyway, I was a keen runner from the age of 9, 10, and it was my teacher, Mrs. McGonigal at St Anne's Primary School in Hamilton, who just noticed I was like Forrest Gump and I loved running. And it was her that got me in touch with Hamilton Harriers, and as they say, the rest is history. So I've always been involved in sport, but I didn't continue on with that. I got some knee injuries, got some other injuries, and from there I just ended up falling away from sport. And I was never really a massive academic at school. Honestly, I was that kid that I'd be forgotten about. I was never bad enough. I was never good enough. I was just kind of average. The only thing I was ever good at was sport. I was like Forrest Gump. I could run. That was it. So I always had this dream, and I actually, even seeing this 25 years later, I always wanted to go to Murray House Institute of Sport in the Edinburgh, but my grades were never going to be good enough to get there, and also loads of other financial hurdles of getting there. And growing up in a family where my mum's bipolar, we were a single family. I didn't have a dad that was on the scene, so there was just a whole load of stuff, and I think my confidence and my ability in myself just wasn't there at that point. So there was just some stuff that clearly wasn't the right timing, but I wasn't going to get there. Clearly with the grades that I had a few hires, but brilliant B's and C's. But I got them, and off I popped, and I ended up doing this hotel and catering management course. Now, I have no idea why, but I did, and it was a weird direction, and I was on it, and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this course? But I went along, did it. I was always brought up by my maternal granny, Sarah, who taught me if you start something, you finish it. So I finished this course, and I ended up at the time getting a job in Ald's the Bakers. Now, I don't know if you know Ald's the Bakers. I was like 19, 20, graduated, first proper graduated job. I ended up the manageress of Ald's the Bakers in the Olympia Centre in East Kilbride. Now, I was terrible. I was rotten. I was a terrible manager. My books never ever balanced. It was just a disaster. But what I realised when I was in that job, it was quite a well-paid job, and I went back to study. So I took myself off, and I did my hotel. I'd done that. I did my exercise to music YMC at Cardonal College, and that was my first introduction really into the world of teaching and sport, and actually making a career out of that. And I think that course was pretty hard. It was a hard course. If you've ever done your exercise to music, high five. It's not an easy course. It's a level 2 course, so the anatomy and physiology part of it. When it's your first introduction to that, it was heavy going, and then the practical side of it was quite a tough course. So I got through it and I loved it. And that was the start of my fitness career. So I started with my exercise to music from the London YMCA that I did at Cardonald College with my fabulous tutor, Colin. Colin, yeah, he was my first teacher. Actually, I bumped into Colin up at Paisley Uni. It's not called Paisley Uni, University of Western Scotland. That's it. I was at somebody's graduation, actually my husband's graduation, doing a master's, and I bumped into him. Anyway, so like years and years later, and he still recognised me. So I'm one of those students where you can just imagine, can't you? I know him. So from there, I went on and did loads of stuff. So I taught all Les Mills, body pump, body combat, all of that stuff, and went on and did personal training qualifications. I was kind of a bit of a qualification junkie. I wanted to learn and absorb, and just I loved doing what I was doing, and it really lit me up. And I was teaching, I remember in the height of my career, I was teaching probably about 26 classes a week. So Carol, Lenny, if you're there, and Laura and Aileen, and there was a whole gang of us all working every club in Glasgow that you could imagine, kind of South Lanarkshire, North Lanarkshire, in the greater Glasgow and Clyde area. I was here, there, everywhere, from the Gorbals to Scotstoun to Tollcross, Leisure, everywhere, teaching Les Mills. And this would have been kind of early noughties. And my back went. I slipped a disc in my lower back. It was dark times, really dark times. But it was a big wake-up call, because I was running here, there and everywhere. And actually I was running here, there and everywhere, actually not earning a lot of money. I don't know if you're not in the fitness industry, they don't earn a lot of money, right? You don't do that kind of job for money. It's really not a job where you get a lot of money. Anyway, I was chasing my tail. And because you've got so many different places you're working as well, they all pay you at different times and stuff as well. So I was a bit of a disaster, really. But what I did, what I earned, what I got, I invested back into my education. I always knew that I needed to learn before I could earn, and sought out loads of mentors and stuff through the way, like Brad Sugars, if you're there. He was one of my first business mentors that kind of helped me just get to grips with what I was doing. And that kind of got me thinking about business and thinking about what I wanted for my career and where I saw myself. Because after slipping my disc and realising I can't jump about like an idiot, here I am in my early 20s and I'm already burst. I'm already broken. And, a combination of all of the competitive running, a lot of road running, a lot of the training we did with the Hamilton Harriers was running in concrete. So years and years and years of pounding the streets doing that, but also then, and especially in those years when you're growing, and then also teaching a ridiculous amount of high impact classes. Anyway, so I needed a change, and I'd always looked at Pilates, right? So I'd seen it. Clearly, it was never something that I was one of those, if you weren't sweating, you weren't working kind of gals. That's who I was. It was all about harder, stronger, leaner, more, go, go, go. And yeah, I just didn't ever get it. I remember going to some classes and like, what is that? Like, clearly I didn't have a clue. It just didn't click with me. And it wasn't until I did Michael King's training, because after I'd slipped my disc, I thought I need to change what I'm doing here. I'm clearly doing some stuff wrong, and that's when my interest in Pilates grew. And it was Michael King's training that I did down in London. It was the start of his mat training, and it was almost like a light bulb moment for me. I just felt stuff connect. I felt that I'd never properly worked my core, my glutes, all of my body. It was just like, no wonder I was riddled with injuries. No wonder I was just completely broken in my early 20s, because I just was hammering my tissues to the extent where they broke down, and they broke down so badly that I ended up with a really bad back pathology. So that's where it started. And I started teaching Pilates in clubs. I came back into Glasgow once I was qualified, and I soon realised that it was like see this environment where I was teaching, that I wasn't able to create the biggest impact for the people that were coming in. I was teaching to classes that had 20, 30, 40, 50 sometimes people in that room. And the reality was that I couldn't even see the person up the back, never mind make sure they were all right and make sure that what they were doing was actually beneficial to them. And it just wasn't working. And it was then I was getting some business coaching, Brad Sugars, and some other kind of thought leaders in business, and I started expanding my knowledge. And I was working out of the YMCA in Motherwell at the time. We had a fabulous guy called Jim. I worked in Jim's gym, and I was teaching these classes there. And Jim was opening up another gym in Airdrie. So Jim said to me, Sarah Jane, what do you think of running the studio over in Airdrie? So I was like, stuff it. So that's what I did. I took myself off to, I think it was South Bridge Street, if you know Airdrie, South Bridge Street in Airdrie. Jim had the gym. He was in the first floor, and I think it was the second floor of South Bridge Street in Airdrie, right next door to like the Bank of Scotland. I remember that was there. Might have been the Royal Bank, but anyway, one at a bank. And Airdrie was quite a hard sell back then. There weren't really a lot of independent gyms about. Like, see now you've got like boxes and CrossFits and all these things and lots of independent studios. There wasn't really anything like that back in the early noughties. And it was great. I did that for about a year with Jim, but it wasn't right. And at that time, my relationship that I was in, I was married before, and that broke down. And yeah, I basically I was like, something needed to change, and I ended up leaving my job. I left working with Jim, I left working with other classes, and I moved to Maryhill. But at that time, I had a job offer to go and work in Dubai. So I was either, well, it was actually Abu Dhabi, not Dubai. It was either go to Abu Dhabi or go to Dubai or go to Maryhill, or didn't need to be Maryhill, but that's where. Anyway, so instead of Abu Dhabi, Sarah Jane went to Maryhill. It was the right decision though, because going to Abu Dhabi would have just been jump into something else. Maybe my life might have been a bit different. But what I had done is, in that time with Jim's gym and running that studio, was I had learned skills, and I had been learning about business and learning about, and as much as we sometimes in our industry we hate talking about business, right? But see if you're not a profitable financial entity, then you can't create impact with people. So to be able to create impact and actually change people's lives, you have to be able to make money that's not sustainable. And that our industry is terrible at that. Personal trainers and fitness professionals are terrible for making money. We really are. We're rotten at it. And I was rotten at it. So I just sought out lots of people to help me with that. So over the years I did that. And I ended up fortunate. I ended up hiring little halls up in Maryhill. I don't know if you know Maryhill Community Central Halls. That was my first class. I think it was a Monday night I did that. And I remember it was a legs, bums and tums class. I had Pilates stuff on. I had a 6-week Pilates beginners course. I always remember, I'll never forget this, I had my lovely flyers up in the community central halls and around Maryhill area. And I remember getting this phone call. Hello? Hi. So I'm just phoning about that pilot course that you're running, that 6-week course. So see at the end of this, and they were being serious, will I be able to fly a plane myself? I'm in the wrong market here. It was a hard sell. Like, Pilates people thought they were going to become a pilot. You know, that was the kind of phone calls I was getting. I was like, oh my God, this early noughties, right? So we're maybe like 2003 by this point. This is not going to be easy. But I knew that just keep going. So I had my first class in Maryhill. I was making a loss. I was paying more for renting the hall than I was making. But I knew I had to do it. And I didn't have a pot to piss in. Right? I was completely no money. And I remember, like, I need a website. I've no money. So I learned. I just learned. I built my first website. It was rotten. It was dreadful, but I cobbled it together on WordPress, if anybody knows WordPress. And I just learned. So I got into this kind of mindset of, rather than, I can't do that, it was like, well, how can I? I had this like, well, how? And that mindset's always just kind of been there with me. Well, okay, here's another big boulder coming at you, SJ. How can I dodge that, or how can I get over that? And I've always just had that mentality. Well, how can I? So I built one website, and that I just started to do really well. And then went on down to Partick, hired Partick Borough Halls, the Healthy Living Centre, the Annex Healthy Living Centre down in Partick. That was I used that lots. And it just grew and grew and grew, and my Pilates courses grew, and I took people on a 6-week course, and they made set classes. They had to do this 6-week course to get into the classes, and I just built up this reputation, but also I built up my experience of working with different bodies. And as I was doing that, clear with me, if you know me, I am a absolute education, eternal student. So I was constantly learning, constantly looking for mentors, constantly trying to find people that I could learn off. And I found so many amazing people along that journey. So here I was, my classes doing quite well. We're 2004 maybe by this point. And, sorry, that's the autoclave going in the background. I've got all my podiatrist sterilisations going on, so that's it. Yay, sterilisation. So I opened my first studio down in Ruthven Lane. So if you know the West End of Glasgow, just off Byres Road, Ruthven Lane's the lane, the wee less nice lane. Is that a nice way of saying it? It's the one that's not Ashton Lane. It's just across from Ashton Lane. It's that wee mucky one that you go down and somebody's peeing in the corner. You know, that kind of lane. I'm not even kidding. That's the kind of stuff you would see regularly. Anyway, so it was down Ruthven Lane, and it was tiny. It had, I don't know the square footage. I have issues with spatial awareness. So it wasn't even as big as this reception area. Right? It was small. It was like a hut down, and it's actually currently a record store. So if you go down Ruthven Lane and you get into the wee laney bit, you know, where all the wee, what would you call them? Wee relic shops, wee knick-knack shops. My first studio is currently now sells old second-hand vinyl. Right, that was my first studio in there. It was just a shed. It had no running water, it had no nothing. But it was mine. And that's where it all began. And I was there. I stayed there, say a year, it was around that. But right across from me, which is currently a dance studio, became available. And we actually swapped because their business was doing, at that time they were a furniture shop. And they were struggling financially, so they needed a smaller rent. So we swapped places. And I got this bigger studio, and they got this smaller place that was more affordable for them. So that's how I grew. So I was there probably another year after that, and then I quickly outgrew that as well. Now, back then it was called SG Fitness. And what I was primarily doing was Pilates with a little bit of fitness and personal training. And I had other fab trainers that come in and joined the team. I started training other Pilates teachers, not in a course. So I would send them away in a course, but then I would then mentor them through that, because that was a big thing that was missing. You would kind of go on these courses and then just be left. And it's when you're teaching that you actually learn. Anyway, I digress. So from there, I then went on to Sandyford Place. So I took this bigger premises that was double my rent. It was actually really scary. I think it was about £1,600 a month at that point. That was the rent. And then you had rates on top of that, which I can't remember, maybe another £600 a month on top of that. And then all the other bills, right? So you're just to open the doors, you're maybe about £2,500, £3,000 just to be able to switch your lights on before you make any money. So I had lots of things going on there. There'd been personal training, we had lots of Pilates and legs, bums and tums, and I had quite a few different rooms. I had Louise, who used to work here. Louise was the beauty therapist in there, and again, but see, when I was in there, if I'm being honest, and I had my first child, Amy, just towards the end of my time in down at Sandyford Place. It still just didn't feel right. I always had this goal of bringing the machines, bringing the reforming machines, but I never had them. Like, I never had the finances. Money's always been a big barrier for me. I've always been driven, but well, it's just another boulder. It's just another hurdle that I need to get over. We'll get there. So it was like, that was my goal, was to be able to let people in Glasgow be able to get on the reformer, but I didn't want to do it just in a small hello. Maybe really exactly, Linda. I'm telling the story of a how we're here. How we're here. I wanted to make Pilates accessible and less, how do I say this nicely, right? Less twee and I do Pilates. Do you know what I mean? Right? That's so not me. And I wanted to just make it, she's laughing at me. I can see you laughing behind there, Linda. Now, I just wanted it to be something that no matter your age, your sport, that you could do and that you got something out of. So I just wanted to make it real and less do Pilates. I don't know, that just gave me the bulk. So I wanted to bring it and make it affordable as well. So I wanted to have options there. So I knew I needed lots. Less arty farty. Yes. If you've spent any time having a nice coffee here, Linda, I've used all your milk cups and when you're in tomorrow, can you bring more milk? Thank you. She's going to slap me. So I needed a lot of money. Pilates for the people, for us, exactly, Linda. I didn't want. I'd seen lots of other studios and I hated going to places like that. I didn't want to create a place like that. I had no idea how I was going to make it happen, but I just had this vision in my head. I've always been a big vision board person, sticking pictures up, and I want that. That's what I want to do. She's saying, okay, we'll do both. So that's what I did. I just had this vision of bringing Pilates to the masses, right? To offer something completely unique. I just had this, it just was there. It was something I wanted to do. So from there, from Sandyford Place, I'd had my first child then. So, you know, I was getting on. I was in my 30s by this point and met my nice new husband, and who I'm still married to, clearly, and had a few more weans since then. And that's when we moved up to Park Circus, and this was like going from this level to like stratosphere level, right? It was like proper different type of business because this was like a full townhouse that needed a full refurbishment. Like the investment into that was like scary zone, like really, like I'm not risk averse, but this was like, wow, I'm having heart palpitation thinking about the amount of investment and time and money and oh my God. Anyway, my husband was a big supporter of that and he financially helped with that and family, friends, honestly. And we refurbished this beautiful townhouse. And honestly, I mentioned that to my husband and he still gets shivers down his spine because we had just broke even. We had literally just broke even. Now we had a lease that was 10 years long, but within that lease, and usually leases will have a lease break in them where there's this mutual break, and our mutual break was at 3 years. Now, when we moved into that premises, we had to get planning permission. It was a big listed building. So it took us ages to even get the planning permission before we could actually start doing the work, before we could actually start trading. So 3 years, and the landlord wants to turn it into flats. Oh man. Now, not only had we invested into the refurb of that, we had also taken a massive commercial lease for all the equipment, for all the Pilates equipment. I'd just gone all in. Scary zone, scary money, scary everything. It's going to be flats. Oh, they're lovely flats. So here I was, that was in 2014. Oh my God. Oh my God. What do I do? And at that point, it was a case of, okay, I'm still going to have to pay all that equipment. I'm going to have to find storage for them. And I just was looking for storage at that point, and I found I swear to God, it's almost like when you're there, it's almost like they say, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. That's exactly what happens with this place. It was like the stress of running that big building and how that building was operating, because it had a big day spa, Pilates, yoga, offices, lots of things going on. I had 23 staff. It was a different business altogether. And it was a very stressful business. And when I look back at that, I'm like, I think I'd have been a very different person if that hadn't have happened if we hadn't lost that premises. So I came in here, I arranged with the landlord to come in and view this. Now, there was nothing here, nothing. It was like a big empty space. And if you check on our website and stuff, I've got loads of pictures and stuff of the before and afters. But I just saw it. I don't know, I've just got this ability to just visualise and see. I just saw it. It was so light. If you've ever been in this studio, there's so much light. It's got the feeling, the vibe, the energy, whatever you want to call that. It just has it. It has this vibe and energy. And I just went all in. I was like, this is it. This is where I'm meant to be. And it's almost like that was meant to happen. I was meant to just get rid of that massive big responsibility and noose around my neck that was dragging me down this path that I wasn't really happy to here. And this is how we ended up here. I would love to say it was all planned. It was in my business plan. And yes, I had my strategy. Oh, and yes, no, it wasn't. I had a vision. I knew what I wanted to create, but I knew where I was. I knew where I wanted to be. I just didn't have all the steps to get there. And my steps were like all over the place. But that's the truth of where TYPP came from. It was this vision of creating a space, a space that people, a community of people that's not stuffy, that's not faffy, that's from the heart, from a place where people can come here and be just treated well and looked after and really get that self-care that they need. We've had a massive another curveball with, as everybody has with COVID, but like everything that's been flung at this journey, we get through it and we get over it. It's been immensely weird and crazy, but again, with like Linda and with my husband and Peter and Kirsty and lots of people just giving up their time to help, to that community behind things that really have got us to here. So I hope that kind of gives you a kind of bit of a backstory of where we've come. And for any other business out there, for anybody else that's got an idea or a vision or a goal or just wants to think big and do this scary thing, you know, I say to you, it's not always going to be easy. It's not a straight path. But I tell you, it's worth it. I'm still not at the end of the journey. I know I'm not. But that's I'm happy where I am here. I'm so happy. And with all of that stuff that happened, it freed me up so much time to allow me to have more children. I've got 3 beautiful girls. It allowed me to go back and study at university again and get my podiatry degree, and allowing me to again go back. I'm pursuing a public health master's at the moment at Edinburgh Uni. And without, it isn't always, I suppose my point here is that sometimes what you think you want, right? I thought I wanted a certain thing. I knew I wanted the reformers and I wanted to create a community where people could get the proper care that they deserved and needed. I just didn't know how to get there. I didn't know exactly what it looked like. I just knew that feeling, the feeling of what I wanted to create, if that makes sense. But this has given me so much more along that journey, that it means that now when people come in and I just get the proper feels. You know, I've had a brilliant day today, seeing patients all day in the clinic behind me. And I just sometimes just have to stop and just kind of look around and go, it's good. You know, it's really, really good. So I just wanted to share that, because I think that if that kind of maybe helps somebody else that's maybe struggling in business or has a goal in life, has something that they really, maybe, like, you know, that way sometimes I was always scared to admit my big goals. I was always a wee bit embarrassed. Like, who am I to want to do a PhD? Who are you to want to be the best at that? Or, you know, do you know what, we have these wee demons, these wee thoughts in our head that we don't really always open up about, but they're there and they hold us back. It's like, who are you to do? And they're there. It's not specifically that anybody said it. It's us. It's our self-doubt, our self-sabotage, our disbelief in ourselves. Then what I say to you is that who are you not to? And I say to you, what is the worst that could happen by you reaching and striving to do whatever it is you want to do, whether that business, personal life, career development. But I just encourage you to just explore and to take that step into that place that it makes you really scared. If you don't do something that makes you really a wee bit scared, are you really living? Get out of the safe zone and take a little bit of risk. You just never know where it might lead. I'll see you all later. I'm going to go with a coffee and then get out the room. See you all later. Bye, guys.